Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Imperial Dane, with another Propagandacast for you, my viewers. And today we do have a 1 versus 1 on wrecked train. But before we do get on to that, I'd just like to thank you for all those replays I've gotten over this last week. I mean, it's been barely a week and I already have over 30 replays that has been submitted. Sure, I have some of those replays, also mine, I've saved for other sorts of things. But really, most of them are replays that are sent in, and it's quite a lot. So if it doesn't get cast immediately or ever, don't think it's because you didn't like it or because something else. It's just that I get so absolutely many and I just simply won't be able to get through them, even if I do twice a day for the rest of my life. I mean, for me to actually keep up with it, I'd probably have to do 3 to 4 casts every day, and then I wouldn't have time to do anything else, not even eat. So let's get on with this, shall we? And let's have a look at our opponents, the two armies that shall be facing us in this wrecked train landscape of some industrial area, with the ominous Pitlevsky factory looming over it all, led by the evil Mr. Pitlevsky. I don't know who Pitlevsky is, but he certainly seems like a fellow. In the southern corner we have Spartakus. Apparently his parents of this young American fine officer was quite fond of the Roman slave that escaped and led a small uprising somewhere in, well, I believe it was Greece. So here's Spartacus, Captain Spartacus of the 29th Infantry Division, Able Company. Sadly no Spartacus Company. He's certainly no Spartan either, but nonetheless, ready to take on the Krauts under Vonvwesterwald of the 91st Luftlande Division. The Luftlande Division wasn't really a air landing division. It used to be, but since it never really got around to being used, it was just instated as a regular grenadier division and sent off to Normandy to hold the West Atlantic Wall. So anyhow, let's get on with this. And while these two lovely gentlemen are setting up the usual preparations of engineers and pioneers, barracks, possibly a weapon support center if it's a really sneaky American, we have the map right here, long divide, right here, stretch, central part of the map, lots of heavy green cover and apparently moving boxes. The west under the ominous Pitlevsky building, not entirely sure what they make there, coming this victory point and this strategic point, fuel point, and also rather a lot of buildings right near, so it's also a lot more defensible than say this point and this victory point, and of course this fuel point, which is the only medium yield fuel point on this map. So while a lot of players might go for this because it is a lot more defensible, this one though is a lot more rewarding in terms of actual fuels. Of course, that's the usual risk-reward balance on a good map or any good thing. Higher rewards usually also means higher risks. If that's skewed, then something tends to go very, very wrong, and it becomes very, well, a bit of a either easy choice or a very bad choice, and you don't want that. Anyhow, so we do see 3 engineers moving out, and what is this? A weapon support center, 1 engineer more, and it probably might have been 4 engineer sniper start, which is something some American players practice. I do believe it is a rather tough thing, and I do believe I have a replay on it actually. I'll probably get around to that tomorrow actually. Then we can see what that is all about. And we see the engineers setting up the Wehrmacht, the weapon support center, not the Wehrmacht support center. Oh dear, it's so hard being in the Wehrmacht. Yes, I know. Anyhow, Volksgrenadiers moving southwards. All nice and dandy, and we see the Americans cutting a path towards this victory point, and of course the Pitlevsky building. So most likely it looks like alongside this weapon support center they might be trying to focus on this western area and fortify themselves within it, and of course securing the Pitlevsky building for the glory of Uncle Sam. Volksgrenadiers going for this munitions point, not entirely sure why though. Would have been more interesting if he actually tried to use it for combat. I mean, he's certainly going to notice that something's going on there. Instead, he's moving it away from any potential combat zones to his territory. A bit curious. And engineers straight for this fuel point that was rightly grabbed into the hands of the Wehrmacht in the 91st Luftlande Division, also sending heavy machine guns into the field. The MG42 being a bit of an all-purpose machine gun with the tripod, it could act as a heavy machine gun. With the bipod, also known as the LMG42, it could act as a light machine gun, although currently, of course, it doesn't quite work as that, at least in my opinion. But in the HMG configuration, it is quite nice and dandy. And it is still used today in with some slight modifications. as the MG3, and I do believe in the Austrian army it's the MG72. And we see the 30 caliber Browning water-cooled machine gun marching upwards. No air-cooled lighter version, or only for the jeeps though, but nothing for the infantry. But of course it might actually force the Americans to get a lot more defensive than they already might be, if they can get away with it. And we see the same machine gun team coming under heavy fire, getting outmaneuvered by these Volksgrenadiers. Might have to retreat. They might not make it into this administrative building where the engineers are trying to cover them. No, indeed. Looks like this heavy machine gun might be cleared out. Will the Volksgrenadiers overcome it? No, apparently not. And these engineers are apparently standing back a bit here, hoping for the Volksgrenadiers to get a bit too close to their submachine guns. HMG still coming this point. Volksgrenadiers going for this central area. And we do see Pioneers are securing this eastern area, far away from the Pitlevsky building. I do wonder what they would be making in there, albeit with those heavy tanks there. I suppose it could be some sort of chemical or fuel refinery. Or they could be making tinned food. And we see a heavy machine gun going up, a machine gun emplacement, another. So really a defensive strategy, awfully defensive, trying to secure this area in the name of Uncle Sam. And we do see an observation post on this point. Not entirely sure that's a good idea, and might be a waste of manpower this early. And of course machine gun emplacements will require quite a bit of fuel, so he's certainly also denying himself any advantage that might have come with that. And of course with all of that manpower being used for static structures, he doesn't really have much to actually gain power on the battlefield. And I seem to be losing frame rate for some reason. Not entirely sure what's going on though. We'll have to see if it settles itself. I'll try not to. Yeah. There we go. Apparently the relic downloader, I suspect, decided it wants to really help some other peoples, which is nice and dandy, except when it happens during my replays. And I do apologize for this, but I'd rather get on with this, as I fear I might be a bit slacking off lately, and it is getting awfully hot. Anyhow, settled now. Heavy machine gun team marching into this building, setting up. A lot of engineers in there as well. No flamethrowers though, not even mines. I mean, for one that's going heavily defensive, he's rather lacking some other essential parts like barbed wire, tank traps, mines. He just seems awfully keen on relying on heavy machine gun emplacements. We do see skirmish phase being sought out, and a bunker going up there. Pioneers with flamethrowers. Volksgrenadiers continue here. Still no real pressure though being put on the Americans. It seems a bit too meek and timid. Vonvwesterwald not really using the 91st Luftlande to the full effect. He even has 3 Volksgrenadier teams, which I certainly say is a good start. 3 infantry teams. Certainly gives you quite a bit of firepower, maneuverability and whatnot. So why he's not using it is in fact confusing me a bit, as I do generally prefer being aggressive, and that is also what German military doctrine also espouse generally, that you be aggressive, take the initiative, and of course decide where the battle is fighting. And of course every moment he just waits around doing nothing is a moment where of course the American is digging in with further machine gun emplacements, and of course means that Mr. Vonvwesterwald will certainly have a lot harder time actually breaking through this crust, as it is being built up alongside all those other defensive Krieg barracks going up. And so for 3 machine gun emplacements, that's actually quite a lot of fuel and manpower. In fact, he has barely any other units except those engineers and that heavy machine gun team. That's quite remarkable. And first now securing this victory point beneath the Pitlevsky building. And now Volksgrenadiers trying to take this point, but coming in under heavy fire and laying down mines. Goodness gracious. What is Vonvwesterwald doing? That's pretty poor tactics. And these Pioneers and Volksgrenadiers will have to get out of the line of sight of these machine gun emplacements. Those 30 calibers will certainly be able to tear something apart. We see medic bunker being upgraded. That's certainly not a bad idea. And we see the mortar on the way. Nothing similar from the Americans, or what? Let's have a look at Mr. Spartakus, who is in fact going for 2 mortars, a double mortar, a small mortar section, I suppose it would be called. Quite interesting. No doctrine yet, though. Infantry company, in fact, and 3 are sent. I mean, infantry doctrine. Infantry company is from Company of Heroes Online. Goodness gracious, had that been infantry company, that's things would certainly been a lot more grim for the Wehrmacht. And we see the first mortar team going out. Pack on the way as well. Again, Vonvwesterwald seems a bit too timid, not really pulling the advantage. I mean, he could probably try and sneak about here and flank them or something, but he seems awfully keen on not doing anything. He just stands around with all of his men. I'm not entirely sure if he's planning some sort of grand strategy in the hopes of overcoming this defensive position set up by the Americans. But it certainly does not bode well, and could certainly mean this will be a rather drawn out game, and also means that I'll have to speed things up, because while I can't go on talking and talking, it's ultimately not really going to do much, in particular since it's rather hot at the moment. We do have a small engagement here. First gun is setting up barbed wire with some MP40s. Engineers coming under heavy machine gun fire already, unable to breach the barbed wire without taking even more fire. We do see some engineers of the 29th going for this medium munitions point. Will there be a Wehrmacht counterattack, as that was also rather something German doctrine was keen about, actually quickly counterattacking as soon as something had been taken from them, since Americans did tend to be a bit spread out and a bit unfocused. As soon as they change something, they'd get a bit rather relaxed and think, oh, well, the Jerry is certainly not going to stop by here. Anyhow, we do see mortar setting up. The mortar having received some small bonuses in being faster set up and pack up. So that's certainly nice and dandy. We see the second mortar team here, and we see this machine gun emplacement coming under mortar bombardment, but rather I think it would be better if we just used some smoke and then rushed in some flamethrowers to rather quickly clear it out. Smoke being quite effective at that, since it rather means your troops will be harder to hit, suppress and damage. So keep that in mind. And further MP40s being equipped. Still not much happening though. Will there be counter mortar fire on the Wehrmacht mortar? Yes, indeed. American mortars firing away with their mortar shells as well. Engineer team trying to rush, but getting torn apart by accurate machine gun fire from the 91st Luftlande Division. Mortar rounds clearing out the last engineer and sending him skirting away. Whee! And looks like these pioneers will have to get out of there, and there we go. And a medic, Sanitäter Rolf, ready to save this pioneer who was grievously wounded by a mortar round. And what is this? A tank depot? Yes, indeed. And this is the sort of thing you usually see from delay tactics. They usually use it to go for either vehicles or armor. In this case, the American, of course, hope to just dig in, spending a lot of fuel up front and then hoping to go straight for armor. And we do see numerous packs, but this one is certainly a bit close and coming under mortar fire, since it's rather close to the mortar that is getting counter-mortared. And generally also something to keep in mind of is, if you have something that's going to be singled out as a target by enemy artillery or mortars, try to keep other things away from it, or they will probably get knocked out as well. Not entirely sure what's going to happen there. No assault phase being reached.